in this country is ever going to make real cuts in spending, it has to tackle the welfare bill. No serious economist argues with that. The question is how you do it. By far the biggest chunk of our taxes goes to paying for benefits of one kind or another, which is why from today the government's told local authorities across Britain to start bringing in a new system, a cap on the maximum amount a family can receive from the state without working. The cap is set at just below $26,000 a year, which is about the average income for a working family. Seems simple enough, and even the Labour Party agrees there should be a cap of some sort. But it's actually not simple, for all sorts of reasons. You only get that much in benefits if you had lots of children, or if you were living in an area where rents are very high, London, for instance. So, two questions perhaps arise. Will it work, and is it fair? Here's one woman who'd be affected. Her name's Rebecca. She lives in London. She told Sean Lay on The World this weekend that she would have £98 less each week for rent once her local council stopped covering the shortfall.
I come in this country to do better, and I want to do well for my children. Being in the benefits is not my choice, not at all. I do things in my community. I was in my training. I finished my training. Now, if they want us to go back to job, where is the job? Because I'm ready now.
There's another option. You move out of London and maybe move somewhere cheaper.
I think moving out from my community will be missing me. I give them my time, they give me back as well. And then if they move me out, I will start from zero. I'm a choir leader, I'm a Sunday school teacher, I cook for homeless people.
Well, Iain Duncan Smith is the Work and Pensions Secretary. He's the man behind all this, and he's on the line. Good morning to you.
Good morning, John.
Is that the sort of person you wanted to hit?
Well, all we're doing is not hitting anybody. What we're trying to say to everybody is...
Take a 98 quid a week off her.
I'm not taking something off her. What I'm actually saying is a very simple principle, which the welfare system should be set on and will now be set on, which is, unless you're in the exempt categories, and that's mostly people who, for example, have disability payments or sickness payments, and others who are in war widows, etc., and those who are on retirement, unless you're in that group, then we expect that you shouldn't be earning more than the average earnings that anybody else would be earning outside who's not on welfare. And that is about fairness to the taxpayer and fairness to those on work. And to that woman and others, I simply say, if you're in work on tax credits or in work, you will not be capped. Now, that's the key point. Go back to work. We'll work with you to get you back to work. And if you take those jobs, then you'll be exempt the cap. So
and if there's no job to take?
Well, honestly, we go on about this, but the private sector has been providing jobs every week. Something like 500,000 new jobs are in the job centres and out in the universal job match that we've now produced. The job centre staff are working with people to get them back to work. Too many people, we've found, have actually found themselves outside of that process of searching for work. We're trying to change that now. We're bringing in disincentives for people to stay out of work. We're going to sanction people who don't look for work. And we're saying to them, you can't go on earning more money out of work on benefits than those who are in work trying hard.
The problem is that in some parts of the country, London obviously, the South East in general, you have to earn a lot of money in order to be able to afford the rent. Are you saying to people, look, sorry, if you don't earn enough, or if you can't get a job, you just got to leave, you've got to go somewhere else, you can't live in London?
No, we believe that there is plenty of accommodation in London. The vast majority of the areas in London, a third of all rental accommodation in the private sector is available for those who are on social rents. Councils are working on that. We've been changing that for the last 2 years. The great talk about thousands and being made homeless has not come true. The homeless figures have hardly moved at all. The reality is that what we're saying to people is very simple. We're saying, look, taxpayers who go to work pay the money for your welfare payments, your benefit payments, and what we're saying is fairness to them is that you should be seeking work, finding work, not being out of work, not living, for example, in some cases, in houses over £50,000, £100,000 rent a year, when most taxpayers can't and commute long distances, as they do in my constituency, to get to work. So that, these are big principles that are important.
Well, they're right. The principles are practical. Maybe they're both, admittedly.
They're both, John.
All right.
They're absolutely both.
So in part, what you're doing is you're punishing people.
No, I'm not punishing people.
Well, that's the principal bit of it, isn't it?
I think actually there's no life to lead to accept the fact that you languish on benefits, trying to avoid ways of getting back to work, because, you put people in housing that they can't afford when they go back to work, because the rules are that you lose your housing benefit as you increase your payments. If you're living in a house like that, and the council has done it simply because they could, then the answer is that it's not right, because you are disincentivized from taking work. Your family grows up, your children grow up believing that work is not part of what you do in life. This is structurally wrong, it's socially wrong, and we have to try and change it. So the cap is about changing that.
Right, and if you could change it, that would be fine. The problem is that you made claims about how things were changing on the basis of the trials that have been carried out and all the rest of it, and they turned out not to be well-founded. You said this is a statement you made in May, already we've seen 8,000 people who would have been affected by the cap move into jobs. But when the National Statistics Authority looked at that, they said, not true.
No, what they said was, you can't absolutely prove that those two things are connected.
Your statement is unsupported by the official statistics published by your own department.
Yes, but by the way, you can't disprove what I said either. The reality is... No, let me finish.
You can make any claim on that basis.
Well, I am. I believe that this to be right. I believe that we are already seeing people go back to work who were not going to go back to work until they are short of the cap. We just published some polling today, John, on this very group.
Polling isn't statistics.
Hold on. Let me just give you this. We polled and we found that something like 72% of those who report have been very infrequently in work in the past since being notified by the cap and gone back to work. I believe that this will show, as we go forward, that people who were not seeking work are now seeking work, because that's the way to avoid the cap.
Well, and that's jolly nice. If you believe something, that's jolly nice. The problem is that this isn't about what people believe, is it? It's about hard facts, and it's not about polling. It's about... And let's take a hard fact from Claire Cober, who is the leader of Haringey Council, which is where one of the pilots was tried out. 740 families had been severely financially disadvantaged by the benefit cap. She says only 34 members of those families had actually found paid employment, 4%.
Well, let's just reverse this argument again and put it to you that the reality is there are plenty of families out there working, paying their taxes, who will be asking this question: why are we arguing about this? Why are we having a debate as to whether or not somebody should be earning more than they are on welfare payments, not working?
But that's not
John,
the point I'm putting to you.
No, because what you're doing, as always happens in the BBC, was seeking out lots of little cases from people who are politically motivated.
Well, we're trying to look at the facts as opposed to belief. Somebody can believe anything you like, but the facts that matter.
The fact is that people will not be earning more than average earnings sitting out of work unless they're in the exempt categories.
Right.
The way to resolve that is to go back to work and to earn your money so that as a result of that, you no longer are capped. This is an incentive to take the right choices, and it's fair to taxpayers. Well, then, why are we arguing?
Well, we're arguing because it isn't working. That's why nobody argues with the principle that if people are capable of working, of course they should work. No question about that whatsoever. The question is whether your scheme is actually going to do what it sets out to do, and the evidence, such as it is, admittedly little so far, seems to suggest it doesn't work.
No, we haven't published statistical evidence on this yet. We will do.
Well, you made a claim.
Hold on. I claim is that I believe we are right. That what we are seeing, and this is the view of lots of people working in the job centres, that they're getting people who were notified of the cap coming to work. Their belief, and these are the advisors that talk to me, I've been out on the ground, seen it myself, talked to people who are actually in the job centres. Our belief generally is that they are going to seek work where they might not have sought work.
Right, and if they don't, you'll have failed. This whole thing would have failed.
No, I believe this will actually do two things. It means that we limit the amount of money we spend on people who are going to be living on benefits out of work, and it incentivises people to go back to work, which is pretty much what we are trying to do across the whole of the welfare
so is that the
changes that we're
then,
bringing in.
The number of people who go back into... If we talk in a year's time and people had not gone back into work in significant numbers, obviously not the odd dozen here or there, but of proper numbers, you will have to say then, at that point, sorry, it hasn't worked. We did our best, but it didn't work.
It's twofold. I believe it will work like that.
Yes,
I have
you
no
said
doubts
that.
about it, and I'm very happy to always be judged on what actually happens. We are reducing the overall cost of welfare. Labour has voted against this change. They voted against every single change and reform, and will be saving the taxpayer overall on these changes cumulatively about 86 billion pounds, which again, as I say, Labour, the Welfare Party, actually voted against. So this is about fairness, John, and let's be honest, you yourself have done programmes looking at places in Wales and others asking the big question, why does the system incentivise people too often not to go and seek work? This is about making the sort of changes that you know in your heart of hearts and the public knows is right. Get people to actually be seeking work because it's the right thing for them and their families, and we need to work with them to make sure they can find those jobs in a market, by the way, which has found 1 million new private sector jobs, and unemployment is falling and employment has been rising.